Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 10th edition of SysMus. We're very happy to be able to welcome you here to Queen Mary. My name is Sarah Sauvé. I'm chair of this year's conference. And welcome as well to everyone who's joining us virtually. This is brand new to SysMus, and we're looking forward to trying this out and seeing what you guys think. But I'm not going to talk too much right now. I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Marcus Pearce, who is the director of the Music Cognition Lab here at Queen Mary and has been the faculty advisor for the conference. So I'll invite him to say a few opening words.
Good morning. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Queen Mary and to the Music Cognition Lab for this 10th anniversary edition of the SysMus conference. I'm going to talk a little bit about Queen Mary and what we do in the Music Cognition Lab, and then move very quickly on to the main proceedings of the conference. We are quite an old institution, so the Queen Mary as a university has its foundations in the 19th century philanthropist movement that was prevalent in Victorian London. So the People's Palace, which is just behind us here, was founded in 1887. As a centre for education and culture for the people of East London. In 1915, In 1915, we joined the University of London, and today we're one of the largest colleges of the University of London with about 23,000 students. We have three faculties: the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, the Faculty of Science and Engineering, and the School of Medicine and Dentistry, which is the oldest medical school in England. We're part of the Russell Group of 24 leading research-intensive universities in the UK. And in the latest government assessment, we were ranked, I think, 9th out of multi-faculty institutions, out of about 120 institutions across the UK in terms of the quality of our research. We don't have a music department, curiously, but we are home to the Centre for Digital Music, based in the School of Electronic Engineering and Computer Science, which is a world-leading centre for research in music technology, and we're also home to the Cognitive Science Research Group. The Music Cognition Lab bridges these two centres, so we conduct research on music cognition, on the representations and processes that are in operation when we're cognitively processing music. And we combine both a computational approach with a psychological approach to try to understand these processes as they play out during musical listening. Now, SysMus has a venerable history, of course, and I remember meeting Manuela probably nearly 10 years ago, shortly after the first SysMus in Graz, organised by Richard Parncutt. And I think one of the reasons for the continued success of this conference is continued enthusiasm and energy and leadership. That's not the only reason. I think SysMus is interesting and unusual in a couple of ways. The first thing is its explicit focus on interdisciplinarity. So it embraces empirical musicology in all its various facets and different kinds of systematic approach to the study of music, which is unusual, I think. The second unusual thing is that it's a conference for students, organised by students, with an explicit goal to bridge across generations. And I think if we look back at previous editions of the conference, then it's clear that SysMus is a great platform for developing and supporting the next generation of researchers in systematic musicology. I have a couple of practicalities to talk about. So fire escapes are out here and out the main door, and your assembly point is what's called the geography square, which is just over here. Hopefully we won't need to use them, but in the event of a fire, then move in that direction. Loos, there's one loo on this floor, which is between here and the coffee area. There are also loos on the other floors, if that one's occupied. There's an entrance from here, from the first floor, into this lecture theatre, and an exit as well. So you don't feel you need to come in here if you're coming in late from a coffee break. And I think that's all I have to say. So without further ado, welcome again to this conference, and I hope you have a great time here at Queen Mary. Thank you.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Manuela, and it's my great pleasure to welcome all of you here on behalf of the SysMus Council. So the SysMus Council comprises past organizers of the SysMus conferences, and it's also a great pleasure that it's already the third SysMus conference here in the UK. So the first one was in Cambridge, then we were once at London at Goldsmiths College, and now we're here at Queen Mary University. As Marcus has pointed out already, there's no other international graduate students conference series in the field that tries to model real conferences and tries to get you prepared for real academia. And if you would like to have more information, I'd like to refer you to the SysMus Conference Series website, to our conference reports that are regularly published, to our Facebook groups and the Google group. I'd like to say already now a very big thanks to the hosts of SysMus17. So of course to all the members of the organizing committee, to Sarah, particularly to Marcus, to Pedro and Peter and Katie, but also of course to all the keynote speakers, the workshop leaders, the scientific committee, the support team, the presenters, and to you, of course, the participants. You see how many people are involved, even in a, let's say, in a very small type of conference. So thank you for being courageous, curious, open-minded, patient, motivated, friendly, creative, and for working hard to make this conference happen. I'd like to say a few words about systematic musicology. So who coined the term? What is systematic musicology? So it was actually an Austrian musicologist named Guido Adler, and he is actually the founder of the Department of Musicology at the University of Vienna. And he wrote an essay and published it in 1885 called Scope, Method, and Aim of Musicology. And in it, he discusses different branches of musicology and explains what systematic musicology is, historical musicology, so on and so forth. And to give you an idea of what type of personality he may have been, I found a quote by Gustav Mahler, who said, "If I want to be alone, I go for a walk with Guido Adler." So, well, so what he did was to differentiate between historical and systematic musicology. So historical musicology concerns, notation systems, historical categories, the historical succession of musical rules or laws, whereas systematic musicology investigates these musical laws and aesthetics, as well as composition techniques and practical pedagogical methods. And it also included at that time ethnomusicology. So it was actually a very broad and diverse field. He also pointed out that each of these branches has several auxiliary disciplines. So for the historical branch, for example, the history of literature, for systematic musicology, acoustics, physiology, and psychology, and many more. So you see again this interdisciplinary nature that we still see now. And around this time, it was very common to divide academic disciplines. For example, you may be familiar with Ferdinand de Saussure, who differentiated between a synchronic and a diachronic approach to concepts and perspectives. So synchronic would mean outside of time, diachronic means within time. So systematic musicology would fall into the synchronic type of category in this case. So systematic musicology in the 20th century, how can we define it? Just reading here this nice definition. Systematic musicology is a subdiscipline of musicology that addresses the phenomenon of music from a general perspective, including its biological, acoustical, psychological, cultural, and social foundations. By its very nature, systematic musicology is an interdisciplinary field, as we have heard, that links together seemingly disparate disciplines, both from the sciences and humanities, with the common purpose of understanding music and its manifestations and effects. You can even go further, if you like this type of categorizations. You can say, okay, there are actually two strands of systematic musicology. One corresponds to the sciences, with an emphasis on experimental, hypothesis-driven research. You can, sometimes it's also referred to as empirical musicology or scientific musicology. But you can also have a kind of cultural musicology. So this is the branch that involves primarily the cultural and social aspects of music analysis. So here the introspective viewpoint is important. It's related to philosophical aesthetics, hermeneutics, theoretical sociology, so on and so forth. So what developments did we see in the 20th century? Systematic musicology was mostly driven by research in Germany. I only point out here one name, Helge de la Motte-Haber, who holds both degrees in psychology and musicology, and who was behind publishing the handbook on systematic musicology, and she was the main driving force, I would say, in Germany. And then later, in the second half of the 20th century, we also saw the establishment of several European research groups at musicology departments, so mainly continental Europe, and the countries involved are, I would say, were Germany, Austria, Belgium, Finland, Italy, Norway, and Poland. So this refers to professorships in systematic musicology at musicology departments, basically, and the research groups. And a little bit of activity was present in the United States of America, interestingly. So not so much here in the UK, but in the US. You had several people who perhaps had to leave before the Second World War and then brought these ideas with them and developed a kind of systematic musicology there. Today, well, what do we have? We have academic programs in systematic musicology in continental Europe that include basic training in music theory and music history, as well as in-depth theoretical and methodological training in one or more subdiscipline of systematic musicology. So you can study systematic musicology and get a degree in it. We also see now the integration of computer science, music technology, and the neurosciences into the framework of systematic musicology. And also, it would be unfair to say that systematic musicology is only important in the continental Europe. No, it's not. It's also, of course, lots of research is done outside musicology departments, for example, at psychology departments or computing departments, and also outside continental Europe, like here in the UK. Okay, so you have many research centers that are very close to systematic musicology. Okay, so this was my little introduction on what is systematic musicology. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about the conference series and a bit about the developments and an online survey that we recently did, and I will present some of the results of this in the next, let's say, 10 minutes. Good, so I think since, I think I can say it without boasting or anything. I think really SysMus is a success story because you see, for example, here, this was a picture of the first SysMus in Graz, 2008. That's a picture of the one of last year. Okay, so the number of participants has grown, doubled, I would say. Yeah, and this over the years, and many more people are involved. And as you have seen, we had hosts in many, many different countries, also in Canada, and not just in Europe. So I think people like SysMus, people are coming, students are coming, presenting, and the whole thing is growing. So this is very nice to see, because as you know, sometimes people try to establish a conference series and it dies after 2-3 years. Actually, this happened to a systematic musicology conference series that was developed by some people in Europe, and I think they only had 5 or 6 conferences, then the whole thing died. So I think it's very nice to celebrate with you 10 years of SysMus. So, why is this not working? No. Okay, so what's the formula for success? So these are my reflections. So as Marcus has pointed out, we have really a unique selling point. There is no other conference series that does what we do, and this is a conference organized by students, for students, under the supervision of senior researchers. I think that's really an important point. So SysMus is not something where just young people get active and they do something, but we have this nice collaboration with senior researchers who supervise all the processes, who are very supportive. I think that's important. I think also that's why it was successful. We have managed to find very attractive venues. So we are, like here now, we are really in leading music research centers. And so people, of course, like to come and to visit and so on and so forth. And we also have been able, or all the individual organizers of the conferences, to invite outstanding keynote speakers, really leaders of the field, and students always had the possibility to interact with them. So that's, I think, very nice. There's lots of freedom for conference organizers, so we are not interfering as a SysMus Council. So we are there if advice is needed, but we are not telling them exactly, okay, this has to be done like this, or you have to invite this keynote or whatever. No. So everybody who organizes a SysMus conference can fulfill their dreams and do what they want and be original. And I think this is really a good thing. Also, it takes place every year, so students have the possibility to return and to come back. So it's also nice for network building. We also have been very fortunate to receive lots of funding from SEMPRE, UK-based organization, and also from local universities. And we have also gotten quite a bit of support by journals to publish our conference reports. So people who attended SysMus, students wrote them reports, and they were published and read by many other researchers and colleagues. So these were my reflections, but of course, this is just one subjective view, so it's better to ask people. And we ran in this summer a survey that was targeted towards former participants, and we asked for evaluations and suggestions, and of course, ideas for future developments. And we will discuss all these results among the members of the SysMus Council and really try to prepare SysMus for the next decade, or perhaps it's a bit too much, let's say for the next 5 years, okay? Things are changing very fast in our times, but we would like to change things. So we are very open, and let's say like this year with the teleconferencing idea, that's something new. We try it out, either it works or not, we see. But it's important that we have these discussions going on, and yeah. Good, so the participants, we had 35 participants so far. 50 males, 20 females. You see the mean age is quite old. This has, of course, because many participants responded were those who went to earlier SysMus conferences, and of course now older. Most of them came from Europe, and we see that now still quite a few are PhD candidates, 16 postdocs, 2 professors, and some younger students. So that's very nice. The academic disciplines that they came from, or they would regard themselves as, let's say, systematic musicology as their main discipline. You see also that it's quite diverse, which is also good if you ask for feedback, that many people from different fields answer. And we see music psychology, 7 people, systematic musicology, 7 people, and the rest, I think 3, 4 people. And most of them went once to a SysMus conference, 22. But we have, of course, quite a few returning customers who also answered our online questionnaire, which is nice to see. So you see there are 3 people who attended a conference more often than 3 times. So which conferences were attended? So you see, I would say, of course, most replies came from people who attended one of the last conferences, but also quite a few the earlier ones, but not so many from the middle years. I don't know why this is the case. We advertised it publicly, but, well, that's how it is. So one question we asked was, how did you hear about SysMus? And you see that most people said, okay, we got to know about it from colleagues and professors. So please tell your colleagues about SysMus conference. So it seems really that this personal communication works still better than social media and websites and so on and so forth. So talk to your colleagues when you come home and about how it was and make some advertisement. So what were the motivations to attend SysMus? You see, I have listed here a few. To practice conference presentation, to get to know about research findings, networking, to meet the keynote speakers, the research group, the hosts were attractive, or the destination per se was attractive. And you see that most of them considered all of these points is very important. Networking, of course. And yeah, so this is good to see. That's what we thought anyway. So yes, thank you. So you cannot basically as an organizer just focus on one of these aspects and hope that you will have a great conference. No, everything is important. Now the rating of the overall SysMus experience from very bad to excellent on a 5-point scale was the mean rating very high. So that's really great. So nearly 70% chose excellent and only 1%, one person said neutral. So thank you. In case of some of you have filled this online questionnaire and you're here, it means really a lot, I think, to all of us that are involved to see, okay, it's working, all our efforts are worth it. And everybody would really recommend SysMus to other students. So, of course, we have now to think, when you are critical in data interpretation, is our survey based on a biased sample? They all like us, so we have to be a bit, you know, consider this as well. Yeah, here you can see we asked for different ratings, aspects related to SysMus. All of them are high. Of course, the general impression is high, and most of these aspects that have also been rated as very highly satisfying. You see here, yeah, perhaps some people were a bit critical about the discussions. Here we can perhaps improve a bit abstract book and proceedings, but I think all the other aspects are really very satisfying. And we also asked them about the unique selling point of SysMus, and these were 3 verbal responses, and I analyzed the data. So then I would say the main point was the atmosphere. I'll give you one quote: the fact that it provides an easygoing, accepting environment for junior researchers to present their work at network. Then the diversity of participants, the presence of colleagues of different countries, contexts, and expertise. Then it's a student-run event, and academic training for young researchers. It's like trying out how conferences work. So what could we improve? I would say, well, I should thank here the organizer of the last conference, Joshua Bamford, who analyzed this data. So you can see here, yeah, perhaps we have to promote SysMus a little bit more. We have to target perhaps varied disciplines, a little bit more the humanities. We have to think about who is SysMus for. Is it for undergraduate students, postgrad students, or for established musicologists? Yeah, can we improve the review process, so on and so forth. So you see, we are systematic, we have a list, and now we will discuss it in the SysMus Council. They also agree that SysMus has now already kind of managed to build up a SysMus community, and that online community is also very useful, like Facebook and Google Group, but there are some people who are here, especially with the Google Group, a little bit skeptical. But it's nice to see that people think that it's a good idea to use all the social media. So future developments, we are thinking of having perhaps a SysMus student online journal, peer-reviewed online proceedings, perhaps a SysMus association, although you see that here it's a bit, people are not sure whether this is a good idea or not. So these are things that we will consider in the future. This I have to skip. Yeah, the teleconferencing, as I said, we are also now trying it out, and we see how it goes, and people are willing to use it, especially if the conference is not taking place here in Europe. And now my last slide, some general remarks about the future of SysMus. It's time, I think, that other people than the first generation of SysMus organizers should head the SysMus Council. So we will restructure, and we will try to find motivated people who will be now really more in charge of everything. Then we will discuss the survey results, as I said, and we take actions, so not just discussion, take actions. We'll have a new website, I hope, coming up in the next year. We'll make sure that hosts of the future SysMus conferences represent different subfields of systematic musicology, especially coming from the humanities. And we would like to find also hosts outside Europe. So let's get started. Good luck with your talks and presentations. Don't be shy during discussions. Make use of the nice atmosphere. If you have something to say, just say it. Profit from the workshops, the keynotes, the social program, and your time in London. And enjoy the international conference spirit and relaxed atmosphere and being now part of the SysMus community. Thank you.